Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. How's it going, everybody? Let me get close in right here. How's it going? You know how I like to get my video podcast started? Always with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers. So, if you would, a moment of silence, please. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, let's get started here. Just set up my camera there. Alrighty, well, how's it going, everybody? It's going pretty good, I guess. It's a nice night out. I'm out here in the patio area of the Tobin Center. Really nice place. I mean, as you can see, really cool. They got this big old screen out here, advertisement screens and stuff. They got plays and stuff like that that's going on here. Yeah, so I just wanted to, I guess talk a little bit about what's happening out in the world of homelessness and addiction. And man, I want to talk on two things that I saw this past week. And the first thing is a movie that I saw. I'm over at a transitional housing facility for veterans, and there we on one of the days of the week we have a joint meeting with another house that has female veterans in it, and this particular female veteran, she recommended this movie. So I picked it up and decided to check it out, and man, it was I had no idea what the movie was about, and I thought it was just like this, suspenseful thriller or something like that. But I really didn't, take a look at the DVD very well. You know what I mean? So at the housing facility where I'm at, we watch movies and stuff, and there's a TV area and they have a DVD player. So I go out and get movies over at the library, and I bring them back. So for me and my fellow veterans, we get to watch movies and catch up on things we haven't seen, right? So this particular movie just happened to be about addiction and recovery, and it was it was a weird plot to the movie, but nonetheless it had addiction and recovery in the movie, and it was how the recovery centers get people to go to get help and that sort of thing, and how much they make and stuff through those facilities, how much money's going through those facilities, and how much each patient's bringing in as far as revenue goes, and it was astounding, man. I didn't know a whole lot of the background that goes on in these facilities, right? So in a sense, I gathered that there was people making money off of an addict and off of someone who was homeless, and it kind of bothered me, you know what I mean? And because it didn't seem like a lot of these facilities genuinely give a shit about what goes on in your life or my life, whether we make it or not. And the movie, nonetheless, it was a good movie. I got a lot of information out of that, and it reminded me a lot of things of my addiction. I related to the movie because the movie started off with a couple who was it was a girl and a guy, and they were heroin users and amongst other drugs, but they were living at a motels and doing whatever needed to be done to get the money to use, to fund their addiction and their lifestyle, right? So they were on the curb at a store, and they got approached by somebody and asked, gave them a cigarette, and then they wound up having some breakfast or lunch with the guy, and the guy happened just to be someone who worked in one of the rehabs or whatever, and gave him a card if they needed some help to call him. So the guy wound up calling and got help. He got clean, and he stayed clean. He started getting his life together, making money, da da da, and then picked up a client just like that guy picked him up to go to the rehab, and the guy decides that the client decides that he wants to use before he goes in, and he did. He used he shot up the heroin in the car with the guy, and the guy passes out, and the guy who was in recovery saw the rig there with the rest of the stuff, and decided that he was gonna take a little bit of it and do it himself, and that was his last time. And it was just when I it made me think how how your mind is when you're in recovery, and how easy it is for you to slip. And when you have unhealthy boundaries, and anything can happen. And for him, I believe it was too early possibly in his recovery, because he only had a little over 30 days clean, and got up to 90 days and decided to start doing, bringing in people and into the rehab. And he wasn't going to meetings, and he thought that his free will was gonna keep him clean and moving on, but it wound up the addiction is cunning and baffling, and he talks himself into using, and it was just one time, and that's all it takes, is just the one time to not make it back. So I felt a lot of memories came back for me when I watched that movie, and it reminded me of where I was, and what I was doing, and how many people I affected, and how my journey is now, and what I'm doing to stay on that positive journey. And I am really, it's like it's an on and off thing, you know what I mean? Some days are good and some days are bad, but what I feel, and through my own personal experience, is that I need to stay engaged. I need to stay engaged in my recovery community and in my faith-based community for my recovery to sustain itself into a long-lasting recovery. Because by no means is this something that recovery is not something that you have a finish line for. You know what I mean? It's not like something that you're striving to get, because if you're doing that, then you're going to be striving forever, and because there's no final destination in recovery. Recovery is an ongoing process, and it's a lifestyle, and it's something that you got to keep doing motivated things, and keeping engaged in spiritualities, keeping engaged in recovery programs, 12-step programs, meetings of any kind, whether they're AA or NA or peer support groups, things like that. Because ultimately, just the way the big book and the NA book say that addicts help other addicts get to recovery. Alcoholics help other alcoholics get to recovery. And that is so true, because you can go and talk to doctors and therapists and people who have never been in addiction and not relate, because they've never been there. But when you have peer support groups, when you have meetings, when you go to these 12-step programs, faith-based programs, they have individuals there, male and female, who have gone through the process, who have been in the world of addiction, who have been in the world of PTSDs, who have been in the world of depression and anger and all of those traumatic experiences, right? And when you are able to hear somebody's successful story and how their life has been moving on forward and going through things that you have gone through, and somebody's story may sound similar to yours, it's easier to relate to those than to relate to some doctor who's telling you that you need to do this, that, or whatever, and they have no experience in the world of addiction, in the world of homelessness, in the world of PTSD, in the world of any type of traumatic experiences. And it's harder to understand somebody who hasn't gone through. But when you sit there in rooms with people filled with the same thing that you're going through, who are have those, issues just like you and I, it's a whole lot easier to deal with, and it's a whole lot, the process is a whole lot more, attainable in a sense, when you can understand it a whole lot better when you are dealing with people who have been there and done that. And I myself have been, involved in drugs and alcohol since I took my first drink and my first drug when I was in the first grade. I mean, it's been a long journey for me. And, when I was a kid and I had no idea what addiction was, I had no idea that what a neurological brain disease was, or, none of that shit. And, but what I did know was pain. What I did know was how I felt scared and how I felt, like I was a failure, how I felt like didn't matter, how I felt ugly, how I felt this emotional feelings that you feel inside because these ugly things are happening to you as a kid and you got no control over that. I mean, I can remember I was like 5 years old, when things started happening to me, and it lasted for years. And when I got a hold of that first joint, when I drank that first beer when I was young, and I would drink the beer because my dad was an alcoholic and a drug dealer. He used drugs, and he drank alcohol on a daily basis. And when that happened, to me, that was a normal way of living. And, my dad was always that guy to say, hey, go get me this, go get me that. And, he had a whistle for each one of the kids. And my whistle, I knew that whistle. So every time I heard the whistle, I, either ran to the cooler or ran to the fridge. And I was that guy. That little guy, boom, I'd come back with a beer, and my dad said, okay, well, we go get another two, one for your uncle, one for your grandpa, da-da-da. And I would do that. And as the night would go by, and this is almost on a daily basis, you know what I mean? Because my dad drank every single day. And, he would leave some, beer open, halfway drunk, he'd just leave them there. And, I'd dispose of them. And one day I decided that I was going to take a drink of it. And me and my cousins, we drank, and we drank a lot. We drank them all. Whatever was left, whatever beer that was left that people had there, we drank the rest of it. And I can remember feeling this weird feeling, but I wasn't feeling like I was before, when all of the ugly stuff was happening to me. I could remember that it made me feel like that stuff would win away. And when I smoked my first joint in the first grade, because my dad, he sold marijuana and grew marijuana, and when I smoked that first joint as a kid, man, I could just remember laughing my freaking ass off. But incorporating the marijuana with the drinking, it just rose the level of my feeling. And man, I was just like I was just a different kid. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel anything. And I just felt like if I was floating. And it was great because I didn't feel the way I felt when I was going through the traumatic stuff. And that escalated for me. The older I got, the more it escalated, in a sense that the more I started doing it. And I didn't think that there was anything wrong with it because every male in my family was like that. They all drank. They would get up in the morning drinking. They'd go to work drinking. They'd drink at work. They'd get out of work drinking. And it was all like that all the time. So I felt that it was a normal thing in my household, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. And, when I got older, I got into sports, and because of the sports, um, that took the place of the alcohol. I stopped kind of using alcohol. Maybe every on the weekends I would with my friends, but the sports kind of took that place of feeling different. So now I'm in sports, and I got a sense of of a community of guys. You know what I mean? People that I can count on, people that I can trust, and my coach was a big one, and so it was great. And then when I got out of high school, I went straight to the military, and man, when I got to the military, I had another traumatic experience when I got in the military. And when I did that, that was a turning point in my life, because I those childhood experiences came back when I was in the military, and I didn't know how to deal with that except through anger and through drinking. And I wound up getting sent to a correctional facility for my actions because of it. And I, you know, I remember being in the correctional facility in my first duty station. I was in the Navy, and I went to my ship, and man, as soon as I get there, something happens, and uh, I acted out on it, and I got sent to a correctional facility. And then when I was in the correctional facility, another traumatic thing happened in there with one of the guards, and that brought back memories of my childhood experiences. And then so I acted out on that, and I got sent to the court martial. It was captain's mass, actually, and I got told that I needed to straighten up, and the guy, the commander of the correctional facility, telling me to sit down, and he goes, "Hey, all right, I'm going to tell you, all military bullshit aside," he goes, "either finish your time here and go back to your boat, or I got no choice but to send you to Kansas Leavenworth for the 4 years, and they still break rocks there. So what do you want to do?" Well, needless to say, I told him that I wanted to go back to my ship, and I wound up finishing out the time that I had at the correctional facility, and got back to my ship, and I was a 4.0 sailor after that, and I I was grateful that the guy gave me the choice, and kind of told me point blank what was going to happen if I didn't straighten up, and but nonetheless, because of those traumatic experiences, those actions got me in trouble, and they followed me, into adulthood, and after I got out of the military, the military definitely, with the experiences that I had there, and going to the Persian Gulf, the Desert Storm War, and that sort of thing, I gathered PTSD, I gathered tinnitus in my ears, and there's this bunch of crap that happened to me, and I dealt with it through drinking, and then when I got out of the military, I started selling drugs, and that was a big part of it, and I started using it. I got addicted to cocaine, and I got addicted to methamphetamines, and you know, it ultimately, years of abuse, I wound up, losing everything that I had. I lost family, I lost my business, I lost my home, I lost everything, and wound up homeless and addicted. And I reached out one day. I was tired, and I cried out for help, and I cried out to my higher power, and by the grace of God, I'm here today doing these, podcast videos, clean and sober, and I'm grateful for that. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without without the teachings and the people who helped me along the way, and these were the people from the treatment centers, the people through the peer support groups, the people through the NA and AA meetings that I attended. A little bit of everybody helped me get to where I'm at now, and I'm grateful for that. And I just wish that that a lot more people could get the help that I got. And but there is help out there, and but there's not enough help. I told you I was going to talk about another thing that I watched also, and the other thing that I watched was this documentary on JFK Jr. and how he is, how he dealt with 14 years of heroin use. I had no idea about that, and he gave his story, and it was a really inspiring story, and how he's motivated to help the people in this country, get out of the opioid addiction and homelessness and drug addiction period, and all these traumatic experiences that you go through that leads you there. And he's leading the way and trying to find a remedy for that in the country, because it's something that we're dealing with on a daily basis. People are dying every day, and it's almost like a hush-hush thing, but the epidemic's real, and it's in all the cities in this country. And the city that I'm at in San Antonio, Texas, man, I just came from an appointment to do the video, and ran through a little tent city, and then over here at the park on this side of downtown, there's just a lot of homeless people out there, and today's just a kind of a cool but rainy day, and I feel bad that there's a lot of people out here who are struggling, and who got nowhere to go, and who are just are homeless, and they're addicted, and they're going through mental health issues. I mean, there's a lot of people out here who've got mental health problems, and there's not enough help in that sense, and there are a lot there's help, but the process to get to the help is through signing up, through having an ID, through having a birth certificate, through having a social security card, which a lot of these people, majority of them, don't have. And it's just a whole process of trying to get that, and it costs money that they don't have. And so it's just a revolving door of not being able to obtain the documents that you need to get the help. And so it makes it hard. There needs to be some sort of process that you can get 3 documents, an ID, a birth certificate, and a social security card in one place, where you don't have to wait for long periods of time to get all these things. And I'm advocating for that, and I'm trying to come up with a solution so that I can present it to the officials, the government in a sense. And so one of my goals is to do that, and then obviously to keep spreading the message of awareness for homelessness and drug addiction in my city, and wherever else I can reach, and that's why I do the podcast, is to bring awareness, and hopefully someone hears me out and is able to put my podcast on a higher stage, so that I can reach more people and talk about it, and try to bring people to this side of this world of recovery and sobriety and positivity, because it's a great place to be. And if you told me that I was going to be doing videos like this a year or two ago, I would have told you, yeah, you were crazy. You know what I mean? I would have told you to get out of my face and let me give me my damn bolo so I could hit it. I would have told you some bullshit. But I would never thought that I was be here doing stuff like this. But I'm grateful, by the grace of God, my higher power is Jesus Christ, and that hey, everybody's got their own faith-based higher power, but that just happens to be mine. And yeah, so at this time, I'd like to just ask if you would please hit the subscribe button, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, send me a comment of any subject that you'd like me to talk about, or stuff like that, and I'll be glad to do that. And if you'd like to be a podcast, if you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, send me a message. We can do something. Yeah, so I just wanted to come out and kind of talk about that, and throw a little bit of awareness out again today. I tried to do this on a repetitious basis, and my whole goal is to do things this time around in my sobriety the way I do it when I was in full-blown addiction. And when in full-blown addiction, I did that on a consistent basis every freaking day, no matter what. And that's what I'm trying to do here is spread the message no matter what every single day. And just like I did in my addictive days. And so, yeah, I appreciate you guys watching my podcast videos. And again, please hit that like button. All you got to do is tap that button right there. And, it didn't cost you a thing, but just a little tap of the finger. And I really appreciate it. You'd really help a lot of people, maybe see my videos, get encouraged, and take that first step to sobriety and recovery. So until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.